Did Texas just give Ohio State some bulletin board material for the season opener? We've got a very interesting report about the Longhorns' upcoming tilt with the Buckeyes. And we'll break it down on today's episode of Locked On Longhorns. Intro.
You are Locked On Longhorns, your daily podcast on the Texas Longhorns. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome in. You are locked on to the Texas Longhorns. I'm your host, BK Brad Kellner, Texas grad, Austin native, and longtime sports radio host here in the Lone Star State. Thank you for making Locked On Longhorns a part of your day every single day. We're free and available wherever you get your podcasts and on YouTube as well. Please like, subscribe, leave a comment, and tell your Longhorn friends about Locked On, your team every day. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can get $200 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. We're going to preview Texas baseball's SEC tournament opener against Tennessee and Texas softball's super regional game against Clemson. We'll also let you hear from Steve Sarkisian talking about the new look Texas offensive and defensive lines. But first, we are 100 days away from kickoff of the 2025 Texas football season. Oh yeah, it's coming, and it'll be here before you know it. Of course, the Longhorns will open up the year against the defending champion Ohio State Buckeyes in Columbus on August 30th. Still hurts to say that. We found out last week that this will be a big noon kickoff, 12 o'clock Eastern, 11 o'clock Central on Fox. Disappointing, but not super surprising because it's Fox, and that's what Fox does every week and every year. They put their biggest game of the day in that big noon window. This is interesting. Chip Brown of Horns 24/7 and Texas Sports Unfiltered posted his weekly Insider article yesterday where he breaks down what's happening behind the scenes at the University of Texas, and he talked a little bit about that Texas-Ohio State game. According to Chip, Ohio State officials were trying to get the game moved to not only a different time, but to a different day altogether. August 30th is Saturday of Labor Day weekend. Of course, college football always starts Labor Day weekend. And we know that there are games Thursday night, Friday night, Saturday night, Sunday night, and Monday as well, right? No NFL yet. College football takes advantage of that. They also take advantage of the 3-day weekend for most people. So they spread out some of the games in week one. Chip says that the Buckeyes were trying to get the game moved from Saturday the 30th to Sunday the 31st. And he also said that the Buckeyes were trying to get the game played either in the afternoon or at night. So a different game time and a different game day was what Ohio State was looking for. Apparently, they asked Texas about accommodating those requests, and Texas said no. How about that? Could have been more of a standalone. Could have put it on that Labor Day Sunday. Again, the last Sunday without NFL regular season action, but Texas opted against it. Now, I think it makes sense. I think Ohio State fans are going to be pissed because we know how much Buckeye fans hate big noon kickoff, right? So they're already mad that this game is going to happen when it's going to happen. Now that they're about to find out that Texas had a say in this being a big noon game, they're going to be pissed at Texas. They're going to be pissed at Fox. They're going to be pissed at everybody, but they're going to be angry towards Texas. If there wasn't enough storyline going into this matchup, I think this may have just added fuel to the fire. That is Texas and Ohio State in week one. It makes sense for Texas to opt against this for a few different reasons. Number one, look, Texas plays a game the following Saturday, which means a Sunday game would lead to a short week and less time for the Horns to prepare for week two. I get it. Week two is a home game against San Jose State. Texas would win that game either way. But coaches would always tell you that the biggest in-season development that happens for a team happens between weeks 1 and 2. Steve Sarkisian doesn't want to sacrifice a day of cleanup. Here's what went wrong in our first actual game. Here's what we need to fix before our second actual game. He doesn't want to give that up if he doesn't have to. He wants a full week to prepare for every game, but especially that week 2 game. Number 2 kind of goes along with number 1, right? It messes with your routine. the game week routine that you have, the buildup, the practices, the travel, all of those things that goes into a game week gets affected if you play a game on a Thursday, on a Friday, on a Sunday, on a Monday, whatever. Every other game that the Longhorns play, except for the Black Friday finale against A&M, will take place on a Saturday. So Sark wants to get his guys, especially his young guys who have never played a college football game before. He wants to get them into a routine of what it's like to prepare for a Saturday kickoff, because way more often than not, that's what kickoff is going to be for the Longhorns. Number 3, Steve Sarkisian has been open about this. He prefers the early kicks. Texas is a morning operation. They practice in the morning. So the coaches, the players, they're used to getting up early and getting work in. Sark's been very open about that. They prefer to play early on versus waiting around all day for a night game. Not every coach is like that. Some teams do their work in the midday. Some teams do their work in the afternoon. Texas, under Steve Sarkisian, practices in the morning pretty much every single day. So they know what it's like to have to wake up and get to the field early and, again, put in the work in the morning. They like that better. Sark has talked about that a lot during his Texas tenure. And then number 4, I'm going to mention this because y'all like this. I'm not a huge believer in this thing, but I know a lot of people out there are, so we'll say it. You play a game at night. Hell, if you play a game in the middle of the afternoon, Ohio State might get a little bit more of a home field advantage. Again, I'm not a huge believer in that, but Buckeye fans get to drink more. They get to tailgate more. They get a little rowdier, makes it a little more ruckus of an atmosphere. If you believe in that, there's another reason that you're happy with Texas's decision to turn down a game time and a game day change for their matchup with the Ohio State Buckeyes. The last time Texas played at the Shoe, it was a night game. They won it. They went on to win a national championship. My thought on this is, if you're good enough, it doesn't matter what time of day the game takes place. If Texas is a true national championship team this year, like they were in 2005, then they could beat Ohio State on Sunday. They could beat Ohio State at night. They could beat them in the middle of the night, in the middle of the morning, whatever. It would not matter. So I'm a believer, like, the better team's going to win. Where the game is played matters. When the game is played, not that big of a deal for me. But again, for some of you, and maybe for Steve Sarkisian and the powers that be at Texas and the decision makers on this deal, maybe they feel the same way. Like, no, we've got a better chance to win in a morning/high noon game. We just went on the road last year against a Big Ten team that had just won the championship the previous year and beat the hell out of them in one of those early games. We feel like we can do the same thing with Ohio State here in 2025. So all of those reasons combined, however you want to order them, are good reasons for why Texas turned down a potential game time and game day switch for their season opener. I hate little noon kickoff. Did a whole video about it last week. No other sport and no other network in this sport puts its biggest games in the morning. We're talking about 9 a.m. on the left coast. Yeah, there are plenty of Texas and Ohio State fans that live on the left coast. Makes no sense to me. I would have preferred this game to be on Saturday in the afternoon or in prime time. I like Saturday way more than I like Sunday. But again, this is just interesting to me. Like, Ohio State fans are going to be pissed about this because they cannot stand big noon. Their last 6 regular season games in a national championship winning year were 11 a.m. Central Time kicks. I'd hate it too. I don't love Texas OU being at 11 a.m. I know a lot of Longhorn fans disagree with me on that. I know that's tradition more often than not, but like I prefer the games to be a little bit later. So I get Ohio State fans hating that their team kicks off that early every single Saturday. I mean, hell, we had an Ohio lawmaker file a petition last week that was trying to prevent Ohio State games from starting at big noon. Like, Buckeye fans themselves have started petitions trying to do away with those games. It's kind of funny, honestly, how much they can't stand them. It hasn't really affected their team that much. Again, they just won it all this past year. But again, you add more storylines. Just get ready, Texas fans. You're going to get some backlash from crazed Buckeye fans if this story goes viral. And if there weren't enough storylines surrounding this matchup already, the rematch of the CFP semifinal game from a year ago, SEC versus Big Ten, Arch Manning, his first game as a, true starter for Texas, going up against Julian Sand. It's a new look Texas. It's a new look Ohio State, but it's 2 blue bloods. It's probably going to be a top 3 matchup. when the AP poll comes out. I mean, there are so many reasons why the entire nation is going to be locked in on August 30th when the Horns play the Bucks. But again, a little bit more gasoline poured on what already was a big fire leading up to this game. Ohio State wanted the game time changed away from a time that they can't stand, and Texas reportedly said no. Buckle up. 100 days till kickoff. A nice round number for you here on Locked On Longhorns. All right, let's shift gears here. It's a big day on the diamond for the University of Texas. Texas baseball will open up SEC tournament play this afternoon, and Longhorns softball will open up the Austin Super Regional tonight. We'll get back into football a little bit later, but before that, let's preview those Texas Diamond games coming up next right here on Locked On Longhorns. But first, a word from our friends at FanDuel, the NBA playoffs. Oh my gosh, what a game last night. Eastern Conference Finals game 1, the Pacers, the miracle comeback against the Knicks. Yeah, that was great, and the action's only going to get better. The NBA playoffs are in full swing. Every night delivers highlight-worthy performances, major momentum shifts, and can't-miss moments. Our friends at FanDuel are giving you more ways to get in on the action than ever before. And they make it super easy to stay in the game before tip-off and after the game starts. Player props, performance trends, same-game parlays, live in-game betting. I'm telling you, more ways to win than ever before. You could bet before the game. You could bet based on how the game is going. You might have made a little money last night if you bet on the Pacers in the fourth quarter. Doesn't matter. It's totally your choice at FanDuel. Right now, new customers are getting a great offer from FanDuel. It's the perfect time to sign up. If you head over to FanDuel.com, you place your first $5 bet. If that wins, you're going to get $200 in bonus bets. As simple as that. New account at FanDuel.com. Place a $5 bet. If that bet wins, you're going to get $200 in bonus bets. Make every moment more with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. All right, welcome back to Locked On Longhorns, your team every day. Let's talk a little Texas baseball. The Longhorns, of course, wrapped up the SEC regular season title 1 week ago, last Thursday in Norman against Oklahoma. Texas got a win. They got some help with Tennessee beating Arkansas. And funny enough, Texas's SEC tournament opener is against Tennessee. 3 o'clock this afternoon. Normally we don't record and post these episodes until a little bit later in the day, but wanted to do a quick game preview for UT versus UT. Tennessee won a crazy game against Alabama yesterday to get here. 15-10 the final. The Vols were down 6-5 at one point, and then the offense just exploded. 15 runs, a season-high 20 hits for the Vols. This is important to them. They are playing for an opportunity to host a regional. Of course, the bracket comes out on Monday. We know Texas is in pretty good standing. Tennessee, perhaps still with a little bit of work to do to impress the committee enough to get one of those 16 regional hosting sites. But a big win for the Vols yesterday. Obviously, the first matchup between Texas and Tennessee this season. They did not play in the regular year. It's a revenge game for Jim Schlossnagle. Last time Schloss went up against Tony Vitello in Tennessee was Game 3 of the National Championship Series in Omaha last year. Of course, Tennessee beat Texas A&M. The last game Schloss ever coached in Aggieland, thank God. And the last time that Schloss and Tony Vitello have gone up against one another. I don't know how Schloss feels about Vitello. I know how a lot of people feel about Tony Vitello. Not the most popular coach in college baseball these days, but that is a unique element to this game. Even though it's a new school, it is still sort of a revenge game for Jim Schlossnagle. I wonder where Texas is. Like Jim Schlossnagle was asked yesterday about Texas's mindset in the SEC tournament, and he said all the right things. He said, no, we're in it to win it, right? I don't know if Texas is going to care about this as much as some of the other teams that are playing. And I don't want to make excuses. Like Texas could go out and win this thing. They need 3 wins to win an SEC tournament title. That'd be another SEC championship for Texas in year 1. That'd be fantastic. I hope that happens. But the Longhorns, because they did what they did in the regular season and won the SEC regular season championship, they've already wrapped up a top 8 national seed. If Texas loses today, I think at worst, they are a number 3 national seed when the bracket gets unveiled. If they win today, they're probably number 1. There's a chance they could still be number 1 even if they don't win today. But Texas, again, with what they've done to this point, they are 1 through 3 in terms of national seeding. Really only matters to be 1 through 8 because then you get to host your way to a College World Series berth. So Texas is fine from that standpoint. Mentioned it a moment ago. Tennessee trying to prove that they are worthy of being a host site. They are throwing their best pitcher, not only their best pitcher, but the conference's best pitcher. SEC Pitcher of the Year, Liam Doyle, will get the ball for the Vols. He's going to be a very high draft pick in the MLB draft this summer. 9-3 with a 2.72 ERA. And, he leads the country in strikeouts. I would like to see Texas put up some competitive at-bats today, even if they don't win. Like, Texas has been striking out way too much as of late. Even in the Oklahoma series where they took 2 of 3 in Norman, still too many strikeouts. We saw it against Florida. We saw it against Arkansas. The plate discipline, the quality of at-bats, it's gone down for the Horns as of late. Tough to get it turned around against a pitcher as talented as Liam Doyle, but that's one thing that I am looking for from Texas today. Doyle, here's the good news. He's coming off his worst start of the season. Gave up 8 runs, 6 of them earned against Arkansas last weekend. But again, Tennessee, a more desperate team than Texas is right now. And I think like the actions speak louder than words on that. Texas, I don't think has officially announced a starter. Maybe by the time you're tuning into this, they have. But I looked at TexasSports.com and looked at their official game preview for today's game. It says Ethan Walker is the probable starter for Texas. Ethan Walker has started 0 games for the Horns this year. He's only appeared in 7 games this season. He's 1-0 with a 2.70 ERA. So the other school that has a lot to play for is throwing the best pitcher in the conference. And your school, I know Texas is a little banged up with starting pitching, but you're throwing a guy who hasn't started a game all season long. So the big priority here for Schloss is to get guys right for the postseason. You can win the SEC tournament and still do that. That's best case scenario. But I think Schloss is going to err on the side of caution, especially with his arms, but also with a guy like Jonah Williams, who's still nursing a hamstring injury. Like, he's not going to put guys out there if they are a little banged up, because he realizes conference tournaments don't mean nearly as much as, the real tournament. That's win or go home. You can lose this game today. You go home. Guess what? You're going to host some games next weekend. You lose games next weekend, then that's it. Season's over. Sayonara. Everything you did in the regular year is all for naught. So hopefully Texas wins today. I don't feel great about it. Maybe you can already tell by the way I've set this thing up. But would love to see the Longhorns get a win. If they win today, they will play again on Saturday in the semifinal round of the SEC baseball tournament. That'd be icing on the cake for an amazing first year in the conference. But it is a tall task going up against a hot Tennessee team throwing, again, the best pitcher in the league. All right, Texas softball real quick. The Longhorns 2 wins away from another trip to the Women's College World Series. The Austin Super Regional begins tonight, 8 o'clock on ESPN2. Number 6, Texas. Number 11, Clemson. It's best 2 out of 3. All 3 games, if necessary, will be here in Austin. Clemson, very good. Red hot. They've won 10 in a row. They swept the Clemson Regional last week. They won the ACC regular season title. It's a good team. It is a really, really good team. And they do this weird thing with their pitchers. Like, they've got 2 great pitchers, and they'll play them both in pretty much every game. They'll start one. It doesn't matter how she's doing. Even if she has like a no-hitter through 4 innings, they'll take her out and put the other one in. That's just what their coach has done all year long. It's worked, especially as of late during this 10-game winning streak. But we'll see if the Texas bats can stay hot. The Longhorns scored 35 runs in the Austin Regional last weekend. Just 3 games, 35 runs. They hit 9 homers as a team. So hopefully the bats can stay hot. Hopefully a few more car windows get shattered on Comal Street. We don't need that. But hopefully some more home runs from this Texas offense. Clemson's really good. They're really deep. They've got better numbers than Texas in a lot of spots. But Texas does have the home field advantage. Texas has the experience advantage as well. Clemson has never won a super regional game. Forget a super regional to get to a Women's College World Series. They've never won a game in this round of the tournament. They've only been here twice. Both times in this decade, they got swept by Oklahoma State. They got swept by OU. Now they get Texas. Hopefully that history can repeat itself and the Horns can take care of business. Texas looking to get back to the Women's College World Series for the 3rd time in 4 years under head coach Mike White. Best of luck to Longhorn softball tonight. I'll be locked in. Should be a great atmosphere at McCombs Field. All right, 1 segment to go on a Thursday show. How does Steve Sarkisian feel about his new look offensive and defensive lines going into 2025? We'll let him answer that question coming up next right here on Locked On Longhorns. Back here on Locked On Longhorns, your team every day. Some sound from the head coach. Steve Sarkisian recently appeared on the On Second Thought podcast with Cedric Golden and Kirk Bowles, a couple of guys who have been covering the Horns forever. And Sark was asked about the lines of scrimmage. Of course, Texas replacing 4 starters on the offensive line, and Texas brought in 5 transfer defensive linemen this offseason. So a lot of new faces. We'll start with the offensive side of the ball first. Here's Steve Sarkisian talking about his new look O-line.
Yeah, I think one thing that I had to go back into too at my time at Alabama and my time at SC, I always say like history helps you with the future if you know enough history. And one of the things that I don't want to say I'm fighting the narrative with us is, but I think it's important. We're really not that young of a team.
You got experience.
We just have new faces.
Right.
And the beauty of it is a lot of these new faces have been developing in our program. And so whether you're talking about a Trevor Gooseby or a Brandon Baker or an Andre Kojo or a NATO, those guys have been having to go against all those defensive linemen that just went to the NFL or that just moved on. They've had to compete at a really high level every single day. And Coach Flood's been developing them and Torrey Beckton's been developing them. So I feel very good about that group. Now, granted, there's nothing like game experience. And so are we going to have some growing pains? Sure we are. I'm not naive to think that we're not going to have some. But that doesn't mean that we have to go out there and play like a bunch of freshmen, because we're not.
So there's Sark talking about the offense. Am I on screen? There we go. We're on screen. And he's right. He brings up some good points. Again, you're replacing 4 starters on paper. That is very scary. But you look at these guys coming in. Trevor Gooseby, redshirt sophomore, going into year 3. Neto Umeozulu, redshirt junior, going into year 4 with the program. Cole Hudson, likely your starting center. His senior season. DJ Campbell, right guard, the one returning starter from last year. He's going into his senior season as well. Brandon Baker, a true sophomore at right tackle. But even down the line in the 2 deep, you've got a lot of redshirt sophomores and redshirt juniors in there. So, yeah, it's not a super young offensive line. It's just a pretty inexperienced offensive line. Hudson's played a lot. Campbell's played a lot. Gooseby obviously played in some big games down the stretch. So you've got plenty of guys with actual in-game experience, but that's the biggest thing for Texas. It's not really the youth. It's not that you've got a bunch of 18 and 19-year-olds who are still developing their bodies and just aren't quite up to speed with the college game that are taking over. It's just guys who, they played a lot in practice. They've gone up against great defensive linemen in practice these last couple of years. When you think about how many dudes Texas has sent to the NFL at that position, there's a lot, and that's great testing for these young guys. But as Sark said, you can't replicate the actual in-game experience. So that's the big question with this Longhorn offensive line, is how quickly can they gel together and how quickly can they look like one of the best offensive lines in the sport? Because I think you're going to need that if you want to win a national title in 2025. All right, one more from Sark. Let's flip over to the defense here. Here's Steve Sarkisian talking about his defensive line. An interesting nugget at the start of this. And you know what? I'll shut up.
I just don't think that we nailed the recruiting on the defensive front. And a little bit was that we had some good players already, and it was hard to get a guy to say, hey, I want to go do that, when it's like you look up and you're like, no, already got a bunch of big dudes.
Time, right?
It kind of worked against us in some capacity, but in this day and age of the portal, and you're able to go get 5 defensive lineman transfers to come into your program to go along with Alex January, right? To go along with the Melvin Hills, to go along with some of these younger players, man, it's served really well for us. On the same token, I can point to a Baron Sorrell. Here's a guy that wasn't some 5-star player that came into our program, but developed along the way in his journey. Now he's a Green Bay Packer, and what that looks like. And sure, that serves as a great model for an Ethan Burke. It serves as a great model for a Colton Vosick. But at the same token, man, we're pretty good on the edges when you look at Colin Simmons, and then you still have Trey Moore that can do both. You have Brad Spence that can do both. You have Zena, who's a tremendous young player for us. And so I feel comfortable at the line of scrimmage. Again, there's going to be some growing pains, some guys playing together for the first time, and how important practice and meetings are to get that line of communication, how important it is to find the right rotation on the defensive front. We know, you guys know, we like to play a lot of guys, but finding that rhythm and that rotation is going to be big for us as well.
So there you go. Sark talking about the defensive line. Again, an interesting nugget at the start of that, saying, we didn't recruit super well early on the defensive line. And that's true. I appreciate Steve Sarkisian being open and honest about that. Like, that's the reason Texas had to go get 5 linemen from the portal. Bo Davis, for as great as he was as a defensive line coach, his last couple of recruiting cycles, not really good. Texas just didn't sign enough guys out of high school, and they were kind of left with a void on the defensive line after this past season. Thanks to the transfer portal, they were able to address that. They brought in 3 defensive linemen in the class of 2025. I think they're going to go after 3, 4, maybe even 5 in the class of 2026. So I don't think that's going to be an every year thing, but I appreciate Sark's candidness there, saying that, recruiting, we didn't recruit there as well as we have some other spots on the team. But the talent is there. That's the big point here, and that's what Sark was talking about the most. Because of those portal acquisitions and the edge talent, there's no doubt about that. Colin Simmons, reigning Sean Alexander Freshman of the Year in college football. Ethan Burt going into year 4. You've got Trey Moore back. You've got Colton Vosick. You've got Brad Spence coming in. A couple of those guys are going to rotate between edge and linebacker. He mentioned Zena Umeozulu as well. Lance Jackson, the freshman, we talked about him yesterday. I think he's going to have a monster career at Texas. You've got a lot of bodies, and it's not just quantity. You've got a lot of quality in that Texas edge room. And I think, again, with the 5 interior acquisitions, that defensive line went from, a couple months ago, we thought that maybe the biggest weakness for Texas football, the opposite of a strength in 2025. Now you feel pretty good about that spot. Yes, it's guys playing next to each other for the first time. Yes, some of these dudes are making jumps from smaller schools and smaller conferences to Texas and the SEC. But there's talented cats. There's experience there. It's not a bunch of freshmen that you're having to throw out there against, upperclassmen, O-linemen from Ohio State and around the SEC. You've got some guys who have competed at this level. And I think this defensive line is once again going to be a strength for the Longhorns. A few months ago, didn't feel that way. Right now, I definitely feel that way. The question is, can it be as good as last year's or the year before's, which were some of the best in college football, and big reasons why Texas made it to college football playoff semifinals in both of those years. All right, comment below with your thoughts. How are you feeling about the Texas offensive line? How are you feeling about the Texas defensive line? And anything else that we talked about today? Always love hearing from y'all. If you made it this far, number 1, thank you very much. Number 2, please like, please rate 5 stars, please share, please subscribe. Don't forget to leave a comment. All of those great things. Really appreciate you making Locked On Longhorns a part of your day. For your next listen, be sure to check out the Locked On Portal Show with my man Brian Smith. He's got the latest rumors, portal entries, portal signings, everything that you need to know to stay up to date with all of the changes happening in college football. Find the portal on YouTube or wherever you listen to your podcast. Tomorrow, we will recap Texas, Tennessee. We will recap Texas, Clemson softball. We'll have more Longhorn football conversation to get into as well. Never a dull moment on the 40 acres. We've got you covered with everything on Locked On Longhorns. Appreciate y'all tuning in. Until next time. Are we going? There we go. Horns up. Mic's off. We'll see y'all soon. This is Locked On Longhorns.